Hello, I'm the Doctor.
Hello Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. Coming at you from somewhere in space and time, this is episode 11 and it is a Deep Breath special. I am joined today by a very special guest. He's been on a podcast before, Adam from the Geeks Handbag. Hi Adam.
Hello there.
How are you doing, buddy?
Yes, not too bad. Yeah, I'm good.
Thought I'd drag you back on the podcast because it's cool to have somebody to talk Who with, and especially this new series and the new Doctor and so on, and your expertise and everything who is much appreciated, so thank you for joining.
Oh, my pleasure. I mean, it's such a buzz around this episode as well. It's just been dying to talk to people about it, I don't know, for ages. Can't wait for it to air. Yeah,
it's been really crazy, the build up to this series, don't you think? I don't think I've ever seen a new episode or a new series with this much hype and media stuff going on.
Not at all. I've never known, I'm pretty sure there's never been such a big build up to any Doctor Who series, I don't think. I mean, the thing they did in London the other day in Parliament Square was a complete surprise on the actual, was it the day before or actually on the day? I forget now. It was on the Friday, wasn't it? Yeah. I just thought it's amazing how much promotion the series has got, and it's given the episode a lot to live up to. I think almost the danger of, gosh, you know, this episode has been built up so much, like, you know, but we'll see whether you thought it lived up to it.
Indeed. So this is not going to be a typical format for the podcast. We're not going to do any news or TARDIS talk. It's all going to be about Deep Breath because it kind of warrants its own show, I feel. The new series, new episode, new Doctor, new stuff. You know, it's all there's a lot to talk about. So we're going to scrap the other stuff. That will be back in the next episode. But this one is all about Mr. Capaldi and Series 8. And so I guess it's just one long TARDIS talk segment, I guess. Yeah. So I reckon we should divide it, because we're going to talk for hours otherwise. Let's divide this up into some chunks, I guess. I guess if we talk about Capaldi, then the episode, then any other stuff, and then we'll close out.
Yes, sounds good.
Good times, right? Let's just let's do a bit of a build up to it. So let's rewind. Was it last year or earlier this year where we had that live TV show with Zoe?
I was trying to remember this earlier, actually, because everyone's been saying that we waited a year for the series to come round. So that suggests, it would have been around the sort of Day of the Doctor. I really can't, I really can't remember. It's all a bit of a blur. I remember thinking when he was announced, we've got, so long to wait for the new series. So it has been a while.
It has.
I think it was last year.
It must be. I think because it was. Because I remember in Day of the Doctor, we knew about Capaldi before that.
Oh yes, of course, yeah.
And then we saw, because he
the
popped
eyebrows.
up, didn't? Yes, the eyebrows, yeah. So he must have been announced shortly before that. Yeah. So it has been a long time of a build. We've had some Matt Smith stuff in between then, so that's been okay. But it has felt like an age between Capaldi being announced to him actually being on our screens. Yeah. And it's like we were saying, the build up to his entrance has been crazy. I mean, I remember when Eccleston left and Tennant was announced, and I'm pretty certain there wasn't this much of a hype and everything going on around it.
Oh, nowhere near.
No. There was obviously interviews in the Radio Times and some other publications, and
I think he was just announced in the paper, wasn't he, Tennant? When you think back, he didn't have any sort of bit like Matt had the show where they properly announced him, but I don't think Dave Tennant had anything like that. I think he was just sort of announced to the press.
Yeah, like they normally. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Right. Yeah, so he was just announced fairly low key in the press, like you say, and then I think before his first episode, the only things that I recall seeing would have been just some interviews in a couple of magazines. But it was really just low key, and it kind of a bit more mystery around it. And then when he left and Matt Smith took over, there was a little bit more in terms of the media building up his arrival, but nothing like this at all. I mean, if we think about what they've done so far, the BBC I'm talking about, they've done a world tour not just going over to the countries where are quite popular, like the US and Australia. They've been to a couple of places in Europe. Did they go to Asia?
Yeah, they went to Seoul, didn't they?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some quite sort of unusual choices, I suppose, or places you wouldn't have necessarily picked straight away. And I remember when they first announced the world tour, thinking, "What is this about?" Like, it seemed a bit of an odd decision at the time. You know, it almost sort of. I think you mentioned it in one of your other podcasts. Actually, you're saying it almost felt a bit like we were sort of losing our show a little bit. It seemed to be like the BBC were grabbing it and just throwing it out there to make it into this huge, sort of thing, which is great. But it did at the time, I think, seem a bit odd. But having seen how it's worked out, I think it's been quite amazing, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's in that previous podcast episode, I did think, that's why I put it in that podcast, because it was on my mind for a long time when I heard about this whole world tour and stuff, and it's kind of worked out okay, because if you get, it's an obvious thing, really. The more people you get onto the wagon, the more people you get watching the show, the more justification there is to keep going and to get better writers and directors and stuff like that. So it's cool. Yeah, it's cool.
It is good, and it's been great seeing like Peter and Jenna, and just even seeing the TARDIS in all these iconic sort of places. It's been great to see. I have to say, initially, as I said, I wasn't too sure, but it's been pretty amazing seeing all the photos back. And where was it? They had the aerodrome thing where they were in front of the big statue. I've forgotten the place. But there's been some really incredible pictures sent back of Peter and Jenna, and I mean, they must have been absolutely shattered. I don't know how they've done it, because they literally stopped filming, didn't they, about a week or 2 weeks, and then straight into the tour, and they've been all around the world and come back and done London. I mean, they must be shattered. I bet they've just sat back. I bet when the first episode aired, they must have just been sat back thinking, they literally, no pun intended, but they must have just taken a big deep breath and sigh of relief and thought, we've done it, because hopefully now they can just sit back and enjoy it, because it must have been intense. It
must have been crazy. I mean,
I
believe that's one of the deciding factors for Matt Smith going, wasn't it? It was the schedule. Because I'm pretty sure I saw him in an interview or read an interview with him where he was saying that it's a 10-month of the year job, and the schedule is just crazy all the time. And those 2 months off that he gets is not really 2 months off, because he's still doing like press stuff and media bits and pieces. So in a way, it's kind of it's a really intense role to fill.
And I think from the sound of it, the BBC or whoever, they expect a lot as well. I mean, I was reading a little interview with Peter Capaldi the other day where he was saying about the announcement that you were just talking about when he was first announced.
Yeah.
And Peter Capaldi, not that he doesn't mix his words. He's quite honest, but not in a sort of rude way. He just, that's just his mannerism. And he was saying, when they told him, we're going to announce you live on air and stuff, he was like, well, I didn't really sign up for that. It's not what he expected. And you sort of think, these are all things. And I think this is one of the reasons Chris Eccleston sometimes is quoted as saying, they expect a lot from you. You don't just take on the role. You're sort of expected to do all this other sort of stuff that perhaps doesn't go with any other show particularly. There's a lot more baggage with it that you've got to be prepared for. And Peter Capaldi seems to have handled it brilliantly, I think,
Absolutely, mate, yeah. And it's probably one of those things where since the show, because I'm pretty sure that the classic era, I don't think those doctors had quite so much of all this extra stuff to do. It was more traditional TV.
Yeah, they used to have what was it? John Nathan Turner just used to have a photo call in his back garden, I think, or in someone's back garden. There's all these pictures of Colin sat on a bridge with his umbrella, or Sylvester just in the TARDIS, but it's always just in someone's back garden, wasn't it? A little photo press call, and that was it, pretty much.
That was it. And it was very, well, one, because, they didn't have the money to do all this stuff back then. And secondly, it was more intimate that way, the cast and the writers and stuff.
That's right.
I get the feeling that they didn't want to do all that circus bit, they just wanted to keep it, fairly contained.
And actually, you mentioned the money there, Gary, and that's one of the things, when they announced the world tour, when I said I was a bit concerned about it, it's one of the things that one of the first things I thought was about the cost of it, because obviously Doctor Who's budget, Doctor Who is a show that requires a big budget, and we keep reading that the budget gets slashed and all this sort of thing. And I was thinking, wow, this world tour must be costing a fortune. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know how these things work, but obviously I would have preferred to have seen that money spent on the show. But that was my initial sort of concerns about the world tour, really. I was thinking, well, why not put that money into the show? But I guess promotion is important, obviously. But it does come back to, like you said, they could have, like they used to do in the day, just have a little press call. And I just would like to see a bit more money put in the show. I think if you're bigging something up as much as this series has been, promoted, you want the finished product to look as good as it can be. And I sometimes wonder if BBC make a lot of money off BBC, without going into too much of a rant, but they make a lot of money off it. And I'd like to see a little bit more of that put back into the show.
No, that would be in an ideal world.
Ideally, ideally, yeah.
Every cent that's made.
All these Sonics that I've bought.
Yeah, all the figure sets and Sonics and books.
I'm just looking at them now, thinking, I must have put a few pounds in that pot.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah,
as long as with everyone else.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's and that's what I mentioned in the podcast. Is it something that's completely warranted to do that? Because the countries where Doctor Who is quite popular now, so over in the US and Australia and New Zealand, and I think there's a couple of, I think quite a large region of Spain is now into Doctor Who, and Portugal, those guys are into it and stuff like that. Do they really need Capaldi and Coleman to turn up and wave their hands like the Queen? Do they need that? Is it? Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? Is that warranted?
And I sometimes think that that perhaps there's a large section of the BBC that perhaps just look at Doctor Who as a big pound sign. That slightly concerns me. It's like they do maximise on every opportunity to make money from it, which is is fair enough to a point. But I sometimes wonder if they sort of don't worry so much about the show. It's more about sort of like, well, how can we sort of get money out of it? So that's the only thing that concerns me with it.
No, I read you. And if we continue on this subject about the hype and everything like that. So not only did we have the world tour, but we also had these red carpet events.
Oh yeah,
like proper movie stuff that you see like A-list Hollywood actors doing. They had the whole red carpet treatment. So the BBC would have had to have paid the bill for that, to rent out the entire cinema and show the premiere and do all that hospitality stuff. So they did that more than once.
And I must admit, I thought the premieres here actually were quite good, and they got some great publicity. I mean, it was great to see on BBC News, the guys in the Cardiff premiere on the red carpet. I mean, that was fantastic. I just wish they'd done the premiere a bit closer to the actual air date, because it was 2 weeks, which doesn't sound very long. I mean, even I was trying quite hard to avoid spoilers, but there was still a lot seeped through. And I just felt like if they'd have done it a bit closer to the actual air date, it would have, it probably wouldn't have made that much difference. But I don't know, it was quite annoying, I think, knowing that sort of 2 weeks had passed where people had seen it, because I knew people that went to the, the premiere of the episode, and they were sort of, they were really good at not giving spoilers, but they were dying to talk to us about it. And it was quite a sort of difficult 2 weeks, and little things seeped through. I mean, the phone call with Matt, I saw in a chat that I was in. So when it was in the episode, I was a bit like, I knew who it was going to be. And although to be fair to the person that kind of accidentally spoilt it for me, he did say, well, it was all in the press, which I think it was, but I hadn't sort of like connected it to the actual episode. Do you know what I mean? So little things sort of got seeped through because of the premiere. So I've got mixed feelings about that. I don't know if I like this sort of showing the episode early to people. I think it's nicer if we all see it together, and everybody can share it at the same time. I don't really like this sort of early showing of things. I think it creates a divide as well, because then you've got half fans that have seen it, and some of them are a bit glib about it, and I don't know. I don't know that it's a good thing to have these early premieres, but I do like the actual idea of the premiere itself, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I get what you mean. It's it does create a bit of a divide as well, because a lot of people that I follow on Twitter on my Big Blue Box podcast account, most of them had either seen it via the premiere, or they'd seen it somehow, I'm not sure how, or they'd seen the the leaked script and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of, most of my Twitter feed was consisted, in the last week or so anyway, it was mainly consisted of, I've seen Deep Breath and it's awesome, Capaldi's awesome, etc. However, I'm not going to spoil and so. But the trouble with that is when everybody starts saying that, everybody starts to think along the same lines of, I've been telling people for a few days now that, there's not going to be any spoilers, so I'm going to leak a little tiny bit. And then we're going to reveal a tiny bit more, and then someone else reveals a tiny bit. And by the time the episode rolls around, like you say, you've heard about things like the telephone conversation. Yeah. So I do agree with you. The premiere should be a lot closer to the actual broadcast date, because that would eliminate, hopefully, some of that timescale for people to get bored. Because
I think that's what it is. You're absolutely right. It's not, because everybody I know has been really good. I mean, most, fandom has been great, I have to say. But yeah, you're right. It's a natural progression. If you've got that long, you just die. You're bursting to say stuff, and it's almost inevitable that you're gonna just let something slip. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah, man. So we had the world tour. We had the red carpet stuff. We had the episode go out in loads of cinemas, which is cool. We had the simulcast, so it went live to like a load of other countries as well as the cinemas and stuff. And the whole thing has just been huge. And I've not, to be honest with you, I'm not just Doctor Who. I haven't seen this much hype for a BBC show. Not even things like Downton Abbey. I've not seen, like, that's one of their other flagship shows. And I've not seen those guys doing world tours and.
No, I'll tell you, I've been astounded by the amount of promotion and effort that's gone into the series. It kind of makes you think that. Well, I'd like to think that they've got a product on their hands they're proud enough, because if they're putting this much effort in to promote it, I really hope it's got to live up to that promotion. Because like you said, I've never known such a buzz around a series before. And you're right, not even Doctor Who terms, just in general terms.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So mostly, I think we're in agreement here that most of it has been good, in a good way. It's just maybe questions around, is the money that they've used to facilitate all this stuff, is it all used in the right way? Possibly a little bit of it, maybe not.
I think there's I mean, I don't know how these things work, because I guess you've got BBC Enterprise and everything. I'm sure it's not as simple as saying, well, we made £1,000 here, we'll put that in, but it just I think there is a lot of money made out of Doctor Who, and I would just like to see it made to its absolute potential, which I mean, judging by the episode that we've just seen, I think that was of high standards. But there were questions about some of the CGI and things, and you sort of think, well, that could have been better. And so perhaps I don't know. Maybe Doctor Who's one of those shows that could never have enough money. I don't know, because Stephen Moffat's quite an adventurous writer, isn't he? So the bigger the budget, he'd probably but he probably would spend more than his means, whatever the budget. To be fair, but
Yeah, cool.
You're just saying about the leaked scripts, though, Gary. I was surprised how many people have watched or found the leaked episodes, and that was another thing that comes back to the spoilers and having such a long gap. Because a lot of people I know have watched them, and I was in a chat last night on Google, and two of the guys in that were saying, "Oh, well, I've seen episode 4," and I was like, "What?" I was like, I couldn't believe it. Actually, I've stayed away from the scripts, the episode, everything. I just wouldn't want to even go near it. I want to watch it on the TV and enjoy it,
Yeah,
because there's something about episode 4 that everybody's buzzing about, and I'm absolutely dying to know what it is. But it makes it even more exciting that I've got to wait 3 more weeks to find out what this big thing is in episode 4. But I can't wait, and of course, there's this danger. We've got 3 weeks away that it's going to be on the net. I'm surprised I haven't found out what it is already, to be honest.
Yeah, it's nuts. Like I said earlier, the majority of the people in my Twitter feed, they had either seen these episodes somehow, I don't know how, but they've seen them, or they've been reading the scripts, the leaked scripts, and I did have to be honest with you, I did have to think about it for a while. When I heard about these leaked scripts and episodes and stuff, I did ponder it for a while, because as a person who runs a Doctor Who blog and podcast, it's not my job, but it's kind of, in a weird way, it's kind of expected of me as a person who
sort
runs
of research.
It's expected of
I know
me
what
to
you
kind
mean.
of, get all that information so that if I get invited onto another podcast or to write an article for somebody, they probably expect me to know all that stuff because I run a Doctor Who blog.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But then at the same time, I'm also just a normal fan like everybody else. So I went down the road of I don't want to know. I'd rather just run the podcast as a review thing afterwards, fresh. Like everybody else has seen it.
Definitely.
And it's a weird one because if I didn't run this podcast, then I possibly may have done.
Yeah.
But then would have stopped myself going too far. I would have it's a bit like, dipping your toe into uncharted waters kind of thing. It's weird because, the one side of your brain is like, you shouldn't be, spoiling it for you. That's literally, isn't it? You shouldn't be just going head first into spoilers. You should just wait until, you see it and enjoy it like everybody else. But at the same time, you've got that intrigue that kind of, oh God, what's everybody talking about? So it is a tough one.
I think that's what it is, because like you said, everyone's been like this thing about episode 4, everyone's talking about it. So if you've got it there, the temptation to think, oh, well, why are they all talking about it? One of the guys last night just said he keeps watching a little bit more of each episode, and then he's like, I'll just watch a little bit more. This is episode 2, I think he was on about. And I was like, no, don't watch any of it. He's like, yeah, but I just keep watching a little bit more. And then I think, no, like you said, it gets the guilt, no, I'm going to switch it off, we're going to wait. And then he 2 days later will think, I just want to see just 5 more minutes. And, it's not good.
No good at all.
No good.
Cool. So let's dive into the episode itself now.
Okay.
Let's before we actually get into the details of the actual story and the episode itself, let's talk about the important thing, which is the new Doctor.
The Doctor needs us, you more than anyone.
Bring the cabbage, now!
Question is, have there been any further?
The Doctor? What's he doing here? There is trouble. Where else? People. You've redecorated. I don't like it.
Yes.
12. Can we say 12? Or 13?
Or 1, because it's a kind of a reset, isn't it? I almost think he's gone back to the start,
The Doctor
well, he's
Who
not
reboot.
1, obviously, but yeah.
The Doctor reboot.
The Doctor. But let's say 12.
Let's say 12, just to keep it simple.
That's it.
Let's talk about Mr. Capaldi, number 12. First impressions, go.
Really good. Absolutely really good. And the thing is, I had quite high expectations, which is never a good thing to go into something with such high expectations. But I couldn't help it. I just thought he was going to be good. And I wasn't disappointed. I mean, there wasn't anything I didn't like. He's just so different. And yeah, I don't know. There was nothing about it I didn't like. I thought when he came out of the TARDIS and told Strax to shush, just that one line, and then went back in, and the way he played it. It took a while. I mean, obviously they did the whole regeneration thing for about the first half of the episode, but I think when he sort of became the Doctor, I'd say about halfway through the episode. I mean, there's the scene on them, at the end in the restaurant where he's just talking to the guy sat at the table. He's the Doctor straight away.
Yes.
And very, very impressed with him. I know it's only 1 episode, but already very, very impressed with him as the Doctor.
Cool.
How about you?
You echo my thoughts. Really, it's I immediately liked him.
Yeah,
it's one of those. Because it doesn't happen too often with a lot of Doctors. The general vibe that I get from a lot of fans is when there's a new Doctor, it takes a few episodes to kind of get into the flow of that new actor and that new character.
Yeah.
But with Capaldi, I think the general consensus is he's just been awesome off the bat.
Yeah.
And I do echo that. I mean, it's a couple of things that I really did like about him was he was kind of like some of the early Doctors in his ways, and he was really, really grumpy at times, like Hartnell.
Yeah.
Which I really, really liked. He had this really kind of non-apologetic grumpiness, and which I really liked. And he's kind of got this dark tone, a bit like Sylvester McCoy had at times.
Yeah, a lot of people
know?
are saying that about the sort of, the darker side that came through towards the end of Sylvester's run.
Yes,
And,
yeah.
But I agree with you about the Hartnellism. And I tell you what I like about this Doctor, and to be honest with you, I don't think they could have done this before. I mean, with the previous Doctors since the 2005 reboot, they've kind of had to change the show. They've had to bring it to a modern audience to make it a success, and they've done a really good job. But part of that is obviously making the Doctor more accessible to people. So we've had the younger Doctor, the quirky, the David Tennant, which is much more accessible. Now, obviously, that's brought the show back and made it really popular. And now we're getting a Doctor that's, a real shaking things up. I mean, this Doctor, I think the reason I like him is going back to, like you said, to actually the more traditional Hartnell and, the more classic Doctor, which I think is brilliant. And I don't think they could have done that straight off the bat. I think if they'd have done that, tried to do it in 2005, there's a danger with it that it could have, couldn't have brought it back to the mainstream like it's become. So I think the timing is brilliant. I think, the show's back, it's a success. We've had some really great Doctors since 2005. But I think with Capaldi, we're now hopefully going back to a sort of, still keeping that modern touch, but perhaps getting a bit back to what Doctor Who sort of is centrally, this sort of unpredictable, slightly dark character in the Capaldi. I love the fact he's so unpredictable, like the scene where he left Clara behind. I mean, I literally was like jaw open. When she was trapped in the basement, and the door was shut. Do you remember? And she was just like, "Give me the Sonic," and he's like, "No, I might need it," and he just vanished. I was like, "Oh, I love that. I love the fact that this Doctor, you don't know if he's coming back for you or if he's, he didn't even know if he was good or bad for a little bit, and I really like that. And I don't think it's something they could have done up until this point. I think now they're being quite brave with it, taking it in a new direction, which I think is great.
Yeah, I mean, I've got that written down in my notes actually, that they've been more adventurous. So another word, would be brave. In terms of where they take his character and how he's portrayed and stuff. And you are right. In 2005, Russell T Davies made that show exactly what it needed to be at the time.
Yes,
and both him and Chris Eccleston. And it was. I mean, I'm sure it was very, very carefully written and planned that way, because it had been off the screen for quite a few years, and the state of what television was at the time, and just that time period of TV at that time, and the amount of time it hadn't been on the screens. It gave us something that was very much Doctor Who, but was very, very current at the time.
Right, yeah.
So you're right. They couldn't have played around and been adventurous too much with that character at that point, because it just wouldn't have. I think it just would have lost people. It wouldn't have. You wouldn't have had time to kind of get yourself back into the show, and they have kind of progressively done it a little bit. Matt Smith Doctor kind of took things back to the more Troughton-y, zany, clown-like kind of stuff, I guess. So he was very much a to and fro kind of Doctor, in my opinion. He was very serious and dark at times, but then with a click of his fingers, he was quite clown-like and zany and stuff, which is very much like Troughton, and so I really like that. And but now with Capaldi, like you say, they kind of brought out that darker tone from some of the very early Doctors, and I just think they've nailed it in terms of giving us something, because a lot of fans have been crying out for something that isn't as, I wouldn't say childlike, but not as zany and quirky. I think a lot of fans have been screaming for something a bit more paced, not as quickly cut together and stuff. So there's a bit more room for dialogue and things like that, so you can actually get into the characters' heads a bit more, as it gives them a bit more room to breathe, and also a bit more of a like I said, a darker tone to it, really. So like the early days and some of the McCoy stuff, and maybe even some of the Colin Baker stuff. That got quite dark towards the end.
Oh yeah, I think that's actually the darkest period of the show. I mean, I watched Vengeance on Varos the other day because some guys were raving about it. I haven't watched it for a while. Have you seen that one?
Yes. Yep. That is very dark.
It's very dark. Very, very dark. I mean, the scenes with where they're the noose and they're hanging each other, people and stuff. I was thinking, this is very, very dark for Doctor Who. You know. So yeah, I don't know whether we'll go back to that, but you're right. It's definitely going back towards that sort of more darker, unpredictable feel, which I think is fantastic.
And you couldn't. I don't think they could have done that with Matt Smith.
No,
think, yeah. If they'd have tried to do that with Matt Smith, I think it would have come across as forced because it would have been out of character for his Doctor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think what I was going to say, the thing with the last sort of part of the Matt Smith era, if anything, it was the most sort of kiddish is the wrong word, but I can't think of a better one. It was the most sort of child-friendly series, I think. It was quite, a lot of people said it was very CBBC at times, and there were elements.
It's the last season, last series of the Matt Smith stuff.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think it was becoming very light-hearted, didn't have a lot of meat on the bones, despite Matt being fantastic. But his last sort of series, I think, was getting very sort of light of touch and comical, and I think this is a complete contrast. I mean, it really has flipped the coin. It's there's no sort of, it hasn't sort of gradually got darker. The Matt Smith ones were quite light, and we're suddenly boom. A lot of people have said it feels like a different show. Yeah,
it does. Even though Moffat is still running things over there, it does have a very different feel to it, and Capaldi fits that perfectly.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we need.
And I wonder if Moffat's more comfortable now, because I guess he's probably felt he had to make it a certain show up until this point, and I think maybe he's just, now he's got Capaldi on board, I think perhaps, I don't know, I wonder if he feels a bit more sort of comfortable in perhaps writing sort of a Doctor he wants to write.
Yeah, there's probably some truth in there, because once you'd got into, him and some of the other writers, once they'd got into a way of writing for Matt Smith, you kind of lock yourself down in a respect, don't you? Because you write that character in at the beginning, and Matt Smith himself would have wanted to portray the Doctor in his own way, to put his stamp on it. So a combination of those two things, you kind of lock yourself into a certain type of show quite early, because you've got Matt Smith who wants to play the Doctor in his own kind of way, and then you've got the writers and Stephen Moffat who are wanting to do it their kind of way, but also so Matt Smith is happy with that. Yeah. And all of those things combined, you probably, you have to write the show in a certain way because you have to fit that criteria.
Exactly.
So you lock yourself in. And with, like, you're probably right, mate, with this new series, because Capaldi is on board and he has an opportunity to take it into more darker places and be a bit more adult. It's really hard, isn't it, to talk about this stuff, because you can't really say it's an adult show and it's not a kid show. It's that middle ground where you want kids to enjoy it, but you also want them to dive behind the sofa when there's scary points, and you want adults to enjoy it, but also get emotional when there's stuff going on that kids might not understand 100%. So
yeah, and I definitely think in this first episode they definitely pushed the boundary a bit more than they have recently, without a doubt. I mean, the sort of, even with the sort of innuendo when the I can't remember the character's name, but when she's posing for the art class and stuff, and it's a little bit titillating, and then you got the sort of the guy impaled at the end, and I thought this is and the eye scene where the guy said "give me your eyes" or whatever, and I thought that this is it's quite horror, not too far, but it's definitely pushed the boundary a little bit more than they were willing to do in the last sort of series, I think.
Absolutely, I thought that as well. That's also in my notes here as well.
Anyone would think I'd got your notes here. I'm just going to rush this.
Yeah, it's weird because I've got here more adult orientated storytelling. So there was little snippets of things like, I'm not sure. Let's wrap on Capaldi. Let's sum up and say that he was awesome.
He was great. Yeah, absolutely fantastic.
We don't really need to talk about that for too long, because we're always just going to come back to he was awesome.
Will we be talking about Jenna? Only because
we will be. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was just going to say, I just wanted to tie in with Capaldi. The chemistry between the two was brilliant. I thought, just going back to Capaldi just for a second, I just thought the two of them together, because BBC have been saying, the chemistry between them is brilliant. You think, yeah, of course you're going to say that, but it really was. I mean, they instantly worked so well together. But I'll come back to Clara. Then. Yeah,
we're going to come on to Clara.
So
Capaldi was, in a word, just amazing as the Doctor. I think there's been the majority of the reviews that I've seen have all praised Capaldi as being a really, really good Doctor.
Yeah,
And I would totally agree with that. I think he's potentially one of the best Doctors. Especially since I'm going to come back to this and say that my favourite Doctor of the new Doctor Who stuff is still David Tennant for me, and I would say that he is immediately number 2.
yes.
For me.
Oh yeah, he's definitely cemented himself straight away, and I can't wait to see. Now we've got the regeneration out of the way, I can't wait to see him hit his stride next week, like coming in as the Doctor. Like, we've done the regeneration. He became the Doctor halfway through that episode. Next week, I'm really hoping that we're straight into it. He's the Doctor, that's what I can't wait to see.
Yeah, that's going to be cool. From here on in, it's going to be, I think, are we going to have, I think I saw this a little while ago, confirmed, but there is no series break, is there?
No, there's not as far as I know, no.
That's going to be cool.
No,
so now
I hope
we've
not
got,
anyway.
Yeah, so we've got a straight run of, how many episodes
12
is
episodes.
it? 12?
12. Yeah.
Awesome.
I don't know if that includes the Christmas special. I don't know if it's 12 and the Christmas special, or if 12 is the Christmas special, but yeah, definitely 12.
Okay, right, cool. So it's a straight run now, just Capaldi for 12,
all the
13
way.
weeks. Yeah, awesome. Cool. So let's move on to the actual episode itself. Let's talk about Clara then, because she was great. I mean, after Capaldi, she was the next best thing about this episode for me.
Misunderstandable to me. I don't know what it is. Who invented this room?
Doctor, please, you have to lie down.
It doesn't make any sense. Look, it's only got a bed in it. Why is there only a bed in it?
Because it's a bedroom. It's for sleeping in.
Okay, what do you do when you're awake?
You leave the room.
So you've got a whole room for not being awake in. But what's the point? You're just missing the room, and don't look in that mirror. It's absolutely furious.
Doctor, please. You have to lie down. You keep passing out.
I thought she was fantastic, and I am not the biggest Clara fan. I don't know if you've picked up on this. I think she's been really weak up to this point. I've never really been a fan of Clara at all. I thought Jenna Coleman's acting has been pretty substandard up until this point, but it was like a different person on the screen. Her character was good, again a bit like a different character. Her acting was brilliant. When she was scared, talking to the guy saying, "Well, you better kill me," and the Doctor was stood behind her. And I just thought she was fantastic, and I really was surprised because, as I say, I've not been her biggest fan up until this point. I don't dislike her, but I've just found her very meh. I wasn't expecting to come out of it, and I think she was a real close second to Peter Capaldi as the best thing in it. I thought she was fantastic.
Yeah, she was really cool. And
yeah.
one of the things that I liked about her in this particular episode was she seemed to, I'm not sure if this was just how she put this across or if it was specifically written for her in this way, but she seemed to be very much the typical companion in this episode. She was very much, because in the series 7 with Matt Smith and the Day of the Doctor and stuff, she was, in my opinion, she was very much almost more of a commentator rather than a companion. She was running around with the Doctor, but instead of being a companion, she was more commentating on what his decisions are and what his thoughts are and stuff. It was almost like the Doctor was doing stuff and she was repeating it back to him. And she wasn't really. Don't get me wrong, she's good. I kind of like Clara. Now I really do like Clara, but in the previous stuff, I thought she was okay. I didn't think she was by far any of the best companions that we've seen, certainly. But she was more of just someone there to either reinforce a Doctor's decisions or just talk him out of something. She wasn't really running around doing the typical companion thing. But I thought in this episode, she really did do that. She kind of took control a few times. She went off on her own and did stuff. She was very strong, but also very emotional with it as well. Yeah. And I just thought that she slotted more into what you would kind of, if you were to talk to somebody about Doctor Who who had never seen it before and you were trying to describe what the role of the companion is, I thought that you could probably describe that episode and that would round it off nicely.
Yeah,
You know,
and I actually cared about her in this episode. I mean, I have to say, in previous episodes, I haven't really, I mean, if she was to get exterminated, I'd just be like, oh dear. But in this episode, like, I genuinely, like, when she was holding her breath, and when she was walking out, trying to keep that breath held, and there was sort of the guys either side of her, you genuinely thought, oh God, I genuinely cared about the character for the first time. I really liked her, and she was feisty.
Yeah.
She stuck up for herself. She did things. She, like you said, she wasn't just following the Doctor around like a lost puppy and gawping at stuff and making the odd quip. She actually was feisty and did things, and and as I say, I really sort of. The scene where she wasn't sure when if the Doctor was behind her, I was literally not on the edge of my seat, but I was thinking, is he going to be there? I really thought that was a great scene, and and I was actually cared whether Clara got out of it. I was thinking, God, I hope he is there. Whereas before, I probably wouldn't have been too bothered, if I'm honest. I would have been like, well, but no, she really developed. I mean, they said they were going to give her a much stronger character in this series. I think it's something that most people have sort of said, that she was a plot point and needed character development. And I think Stephen Moffat definitely stepped up to the plate in terms of that in this episode. And I hope it continues.
Absolutely, yeah. On the subject of Clara and Jenna Coleman, there's been a lot of rumblings and rumours that this is her last series.
Yeah.
Is that true?
I don't know. I like the way you ask me like I have some secret knowledge.
From one fan
I have been on the phone to Stephen this morning, Stephen Moffat, but no, I don't know. I feel that my gut feeling is that she will go at Christmas, which is what's been reported.
Right.
I think it just feels like a natural, because she would have been in 2 series, is it?
2. Yep.
Yeah, 2. Yeah, and. I don't know. I mean, you got to keep it fresh, and I feel it would be the right time for her to go. But after her performance in Deep Breath, I'm actually interested to see where the character goes in this series, because it's clear from the synopsis of the episodes we've seen that are forthcoming that she's going to be integral to a lot of the storyline, obviously. But in terms of her relationship with the Doctor, so I think she will go at Christmas. Right. And if you'd have asked me before Deep Breath, I would have said good. Now, if I'm honest, I'm sorry, but if I'm honest, I would have said good. But now, I'm actually really intrigued to see where this character goes in terms of her and the Doctor, because there's an interesting spark between the two of them now, which we didn't have with Matt Smith. And yeah, I'm not desperate to see her go at all now, but I think she will.
I think she will, based on the fact that she's... how her character was explained back towards the end of Series 7, where she was kind of...
In the timeline?
Yeah, so she was involved with every incarnation and kind of helping the Doctor along the way at all these different, vital points. Because this particular Doctor is now a reboot, if you like, her place is now, as that type of character, is almost now redundant, isn't it? Because I can't see her being involved in every incarnation from here on. So I think for the first 11 Doctors that we had, or 12, whichever way you want to look at it, and how they explained it when they had that really cool montage of all the other Doctors and her popping up all over the place and helping him, I don't think that now applies from this Doctor onwards, does it? So I think her character as like, the Doctor's kind of behind the scenes little helper, I think is now not applicable to this Doctor and the future Doctors. So I think now would be a good time in this series, or even like you say at Christmas, to to politely bin her off.
Yeah,
I think
I hope we don't go back to that. I think that storyline's done, and I think it kind of almost got sort of referred to back a bit too much. So yeah, I hope we don't go back to that. But one thing I want to ask your opinion on, talking about the time stream. One of my friends did a review of Deep Breath on YouTube, which I watched this morning. He made an interesting point, and I just want to see what you think, because he was saying, obviously, a lot of the episode was Clara, being shocked at the appearance of the Doctor and it not being the same man, and the fact he's old. And what my friend was saying in his video was, but if she's been in his time stream and she's seen all the other Doctors and the War Doctor who's old and stuff, why is she so why can't she accept him? What's the big deal? Because she's already seen all the different regenerations. Now, I thought that was quite a good point, but then my partner said, well, that's because she doesn't remember any of those. It's for each individual Clara. But I haven't quite got my head around that yet. What do you think? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
why would she? Does she not remember? I can't really remember the sort of plot point, but
she can't remember, can she? She can't.
So that would make sense then, because that's what I was thinking. Yeah, why would she be surprised at the Doctor?
Yeah.
But it's because she can't remember the other time streams then.
That's right. Yeah, she can't.
Right.
There's like a reincarnation of Clara
Yes.
as the Doctor's, not companion, but like, well, I guess companion in a way. But the only time I think what throws people with that and might potentially throw a confusing spanner in the works is in that episode. I think it was the finale of Series 7 or Series 6, one of the two. Can't remember now. Where they go to Trenzalore.
Day of the Doctor. No.
No.
Death of the Doctor.
Death of the Doctor, yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many something of the Doctor, isn't there? Yeah, so when they go to Trenzalore and you see the Doctor's time stream and she dives into it, doesn't she?
Yeah.
So I think when she dives into the Doctor's physical time stream and she goes back to the first Doctor and goes all the way through, I think that's kind of forced upon her because she's in the Doctor's time stream. It's like a kind of parallaxy conundrum-y thing.
Yeah, I think I see where you're coming from. The thing is, I kind of need to go back and watch it because I found that series quite patchy. So to be honest, I haven't really rewatched it much since it aired, which is why I wasn't too clear on it.
Right.
Because there was a few episodes that I didn't really enjoy. I think I've only watched them once or twice since they were actually shown. So, but yeah, I get what you mean. That does make sense.
Yeah. So I think it's two things there. I think one, before she did that, she could only remember the incarnation that she's currently with at the time. Yeah. And secondly, because this Doctor because this is a new start of a whole new series of regenerations, it's almost like the new Doctor from her point of view as well. I don't think that she would, or put it this way, in that episode where she does jump into the Doctor's time stream, I don't think it would stretch over to this new Doctor and the following regenerational Doctors.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
It's like a cut-off point because this is a completely new set of regenerations. It's like not a different time. Well, I guess, yeah, like a different time stream.
Like a reset. Yeah.
Yeah, reset button.
The reset button, which Moffat's so fond of.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing with Clara. Yeah.
Okay.
But she was great in this episode. Really good.
Yeah, I have to agree.
And I think it would be as sad as, if she can keep up this, if she's written this well throughout this whole series, it would be sad to see her go. But I think it would be the right thing for her to go.
It might make it even better, actually, because as I said, if she had gone at the end of the previous series, I nearly said season.
I've said it once, so I've got a pound in the jar.
I wouldn't have cared, honestly. I would have. But if she's written as well as this for Series 8, and she does go, it will be even better because I will actually care. I will think, well, and I'm glad that she will have got that chance to have improved as well because I think she was really good in this one.
Yep, agreed.
So,
yeah. Okay, so some other stuff from this episode then. What did you think of the whole Vastra, Jenny and Strax thing? Do you like those guys?
I'm not their biggest fan. I like Strax. I like them in small doses, but I do think they worked well in this episode. I remember seeing this, when they first started filming, seeing the pictures of them and knowing that they were going to be in the first episode and groaning. I remember at the time going, oh no, not in the first episode. But I have to say, I think they worked quite well. Mm-hmm. I did find, I was saying earlier actually to a partner, I did find the scenes, because we saw it in the cinema, so I found the scenes at the start with Vastra and Clara a bit slow. I thought they slowed up the action a bit. When she was talking about the veil and all that. And nice scenes, but I think they were in the wrong place. I kept thinking, come on, let's get into it. I want to get back to Capaldi. And I found they slowed up the story a little bit. But overall, I thought they worked quite well in it.
Okay, I'm going to come opposite to that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought that was nicely placed.
What, the scenes with them in her house?
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, and the reason I say that is because I felt like it took you back to a more classic era style of kind of plot pacing and stuff like that. Because if you go back to like some of the Tom Baker things and that era, you often find that you have the Doctor and the companion have landed somewhere, and there's like a group of people who are in trouble or they've let something loose or whatever.
Yeah.
And you often have this thing where you've got the Doctor and, say, Sarah Jane, for example, they're off kind of investigating and stuff.
Yeah.
And they might run into something, a monster or whatever. But instead of just staying with them and seeing how they tackle that, it cuts back to a conversation that these other people might be having. And you're left thinking, hold on, what's the Doctor going to do? He's just about to get eaten or something. And then it cuts back to, you know what I mean? It's kind of that more classic era kind of writing where you can I think that's more down to the runtime of this episode. What was this, like 75 minutes?
Yeah, 75, wasn't it?
Yeah, and so I think that gave it a bit more room to do things like that, where you could see the Doctor and you could really get into his scenes where he was kind of finding himself and his disorientation, everything like that. And then just when you think, that's getting cool, it cuts back to that things like Clara and Vastra having a conversation. So I do see what you're saying. It did it cut the pace up a little bit. But for me, I thought that was quite cool because it was more like the classic stuff, which I'm not
taking
saying
its time. Yeah, I know what you mean.
You know what I mean? I'm not saying that it should be like the classic stuff. I'm just saying it reminded me of that, and that's not a bad thing. So,
and I think that's something we're going to see more of in the series because Stephen Moffat has said, hasn't he, that he doesn't want it to be quick jump cuts. He wants it to be this series to be more dialogue and more character, which is fine. I think I've watched the episode twice now, and I know what you mean. I think you're probably right to a point. Maybe it's just because I was, buzzing and I just wanted to see the Doctor. I've watched the episode twice, and you could be right, but I think the scene that bugs me is where she says, Vastra says, the game is afoot, and she rings the bell, and we think, here we go. And she says, we need more tea. And then it just cuts to a scene of them drinking tea. And I was like, no, let's get in, let's go. And I think that's what it was. I was just thinking, no, come on, let's get going now. But yeah, you could be right.
No, I think it's subjective, isn't it? I think it's one of those things where if you're really buzzing about Capaldi as the new Doctor, you want to see as much of him.
I just couldn't wait to get back to it. I was just thinking, let's see more Capaldi.
No, I'll read you. Yeah. I think some of the other episodes as we move forward, are they just going to go back to 45 minutes now?
I assume so.
There will be, yep. So
they're standalone as well, aren't they? From what we're told.
Yes.
Pretty much. Apart from this running theme, which I guess we'll come to later, there's going to be a slight running theme in terms of what we saw at the end of the episode, I guess.
Yeah. So I think with the shorter run time on the preceding episodes, I think it won't be as much like that. I think it'll
tighten it up. Yeah, definitely.
So, I think so. For me, I think Vastra and Jenny were very cool in this. Mm-hmm. I kind of had the same reaction when I saw that it was going to be those guys in the first episode. I did have a little, geez.
Yeah,
because
I definitely did, yeah.
Sometimes their episodes can be a habit of being a bit spoofy almost and a bit too kind of kiddie-like, especially with Strax.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Strax. He's a cool character and he is very funny, but sometimes you kind of tread over that line where do you think, is this one more for the kids because these guys are in it? And there was talk, wasn't there, of making a CBBC programme with those three in it.
Yeah, there's been sort of mumblings about that for quite some time, isn't there?
Yeah, so I can see, when you see that an episode is going to include those three, some people do get a bit, oh, brother. But I thought they were okay in this, especially Vastra and Jenny, because in the previous episodes that we've seen them in, we've been told that they're a couple, that they're a married couple. But in this one, that's one of the aspects that I did feel was a lot more adult, and that was there was a bit more kind of an obvious. You know what I mean? You could kind of tell that they were a proper couple in this, a proper married couple, not just by the little quips that they had with each other and stuff like that, but the actual when they were in the basement of that restaurant and they had to hold their breath and she offered to share breath and stuff. You could tell that was more than just.
Yes, that's right.
So that was very cool. I really enjoyed that because I think it's important that in this. You don't want to hide behind, these. if you're going to say that they're a couple, then don't just kind of pussyfoot around it and be like, oh, you know, they're just going to mention each other now and then. So I thought that was very cool, and I thought
I just have visions of Stephen Moffat writing that scene and just frothing at the mouth there like dirty old perv.
Yes.
When I was watching it, I was just imagining writing that, thinking, "Oh yes."
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So oh god, that's in my head now.
But do you know what? It shows what a geek I am. Like everyone after, there's a couple of people, not everyone, a couple of people afterwards saying, "Oh God, you know, lesbian kiss, Doctor Who, or do we need it and stuff." When I watched that scene, do you know what I was thinking? This is what such a geek I am. All I could think was, I can see the join on a mask.
Oh man,
Just shows how boring I am.
Do you know what? I did think that a little bit with Strax.
Did
I
you?
thought to myself,
Oh, Strax.
I can see where the makeup's coming away from, like around his mouth and stuff.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't be. I was watching it thinking, why are you thinking that?
Now you're a proper geek, Gary. Now you see, you've cemented yourself as a Doctor Who fan right there.
Well, I was thinking. Well, when I was watching this a second time, I was thinking, why am I thinking about that? You know. But anyway, so I thought Vastra and Jenny were very cool, very cute couple, and Strax was his usual funny self, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, I think they worked well in the episode. They weren't overused or over the top. I just think they fitted in nicely.
Yeah, I thought they were cool. No complaints there, and then overall, you know, the whole kind of the mechanical robot things from this stems from Girl in the Fireplace, right?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't made explicitly clear, but I mean, I suppose it was the way. But yeah, it definitely was, wasn't it? A hark back to that, which is nice, I think.
Yeah, and what I liked about that was Stephen Moffat didn't pick a typically big, famous, you know, enemy because he could have gone in with like Daleks or Cybermen, whatever. So I like the fact that he chose something that was fairly, in terms of like monsters in Doctor Who, this was like a fairly low key thing. It was,
yeah. I thought they were great. I mean, the lead guy, the lead baddie, you know, the half face. What was his actual name? Because he was brilliant. I thought the voice and everything was good.
Yeah, well, his character name was actually Half Face Man.
Oh,
that's his character name.
It's a bit unimaginative.
Yeah, well, played by Peter Ferdinando, and he was very cool.
He was brilliant. I mean, as I say, I don't know if they treated his voice or if he talks like that, but voice was really sort of creepy, and the actual mechanics on the face looked very good, I thought.
Yeah, that was really well done.
He was properly creepy. I thought he was a great villain, for what he did, and the scene in the cafe where they get up and then they all start slowly moving, and that was very, very well done, I thought, with the clockwork noise in the background and everything.
Yeah, they were cool because it's one of those episodes where you don't really have to go into a great deal of detail about these things. They're just mechanical, like humanoid kind of robots, and you don't really need to explain too much. You can just introduce them and get on with it, really. So that was cool.
Yeah.
But I did like the fact that they picked, because I think it's Girl in a Fireplace is quite a popular Tennant episode. A lot of people do like that one.
It's a good one, isn't it?
It is good, yeah.
Yeah.
So I like that they picked that, you know, a popular episode that a lot of people would have seen, and also these bad guys that are not really too famous. Because, like I said, he could have got in with like all guns blazing, but I'm glad he kept it kind of low key in that respect.
Oh, definitely.
So that was cool. And what do you reckon of T-Rex, the dinosaur stuff?
Well, I thought it looked good. I liked the fact it spat out the TARDIS. I just thought that was a bit of fun. A lot of people are saying it was pointless. I having heard Stephen Moffat, because I saw it in cinema, they had the Q&A, and having heard Stephen Moffat explain why he had the T-Rex, it kind of makes sense. He just said he basically it's there because he wanted a big intro, and then he kind of wrote the plot around it, which I could, now watching the episode back for a second time, can totally see. But yeah, I thought it was fun. I mean, yeah, it was kind of surplus to the storyline, but so what? I thought it looked good, and yeah, it's just a bit of fun to start the episode, really.
Yeah, I thought it was. I was in two minds about it, and I still am, really. I thought it was fun, like you say. It was a good, you know, why not? Why not have a T-Rex spit out the TARDIS? You know, it's cool.
Yeah.
The only thing that didn't quite sit pretty with me was the reaction of people to the T-Rex.
Right, yeah, I would agree with that.
Do you see what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
the whole city of London just seemed to carry on as normal.
Yeah, they did. They were like, oh, it's the government or something, didn't they? Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
They didn't really considering when it was set.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
absolutely right. Actually,
Yeah.
it was. They weren't very impressed, were they? By
Yeah. Even when we revisit the T-Rex later on, where the doctor's looking out the window and is gone off to rescue it, just before it gets set on fire.
Yeah.
Even then, like at night time, like London's still buzzing, there's stuff going on, and there's just this T-Rex just plodding through, and
Just
there's
having a walk. Yeah.
Yeah, so I liked that they put the T-Rex in there. That was very cool. Stephen Moffat, why shouldn't he do stuff like that? It's very cool and a fun aspect and stuff. It was just more of the kind of complete weird nature that the people of London took to it. It was like, oh, there's a dinosaur, cool, let's go and get some lunch.
It was, yeah. Let's have a coffee and watch the dinosaur. Yeah, it was a bit. You're right.
Yeah, but it was cool though. It was fun.
Yeah, it's good. Interesting way to start it.
Absolutely, yeah. Anything else you'd like to say about this? Any fun little bits that you noticed? I noticed a couple of bits, Easter eggy fact stuff.
Oh, go on. I'm intrigued.
Just one. Just one actually. The homeless guy.
Oh yes. Oh, I'm glad you've mentioned that.
Yeah, what a lovely touch that was.
Fantastic. And do you know what? Didn't he give a beautiful, subtle performance? He was just so good. I mean, it's so easy to like, he could have really overdone that part. Like when you do a tramp, you can be the drunk, or he played it so subtle and brilliant. A really lovely touch having Liz Sladen's husband. I can't think of his name. Do you have it?
It's I had it written down.
It's always a
but no, it was a really. I thought it was a really, really nice touch.
And a nice scene, a really nice scene.
Really nice scene as well.
Give me that coat. Yeah.
Give me that. Yeah, it was really cool. And I didn't clock at first. Obviously, I hadn't, I've never seen him before.
No.
In anything. I don't even know if he's an actor by, as his job or whatever. I hadn't seen him, but afterwards, when I heard about that, I thought, wow, that's really cool. And I wonder how it wound up with him actually being in this episode. It's
Yeah, because I didn't know it was him until I think it was in the Doctor Who Extra they mentioned it, wasn't it? I didn't know until after the episode. And I thought it was such a nice scene anyway, but when I found out it was him, I was like, oh, that's great. But yeah, I didn't realise at the time that it was Liz Sladen's husband.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know either.
No.
Weird. Did you notice?
I don't know how he came to be there.
Yeah.
Well, I noticed. Well, actually, I did notice. My partner noticed that when the TARDIS gets spat out, the spit disappears. Every time it cuts to the Doctor coming out of the TARDIS, the spit isn't on the door. No, or is it the other way around? Yeah, the spit's on the door when he comes out of the TARDIS, and in the long shots it's not. And there's a disappearing bucket, apparently, in the scene with Clara. But I didn't notice these things at all.
Yes, I noticed the bucket. Yep.
You did? Oh, yep. Right. I didn't. I was too engrossed in it. But yeah, there's a couple of continuity spots. But no, I mean, overall, I mean, there was quite a lot of nice little touches. I like the bit at the end, actually, where the Doctor is with Half-Faced Man. Is that what he's called?
Half-Faced Man, yeah.
Half-Faced Man, yeah. And he shows him his face in the mirror, doesn't he? But on the other side, he's looking at his reflection. And Peter Capaldi gives a very subtle but sort of disturbed reaction to look at himself again. And I suppose this is something that we're going to come back to, I assume, is this. He's troubled by his appearance and the fact he knows it. He thinks he's seen it before, isn't he? So I'm assuming this is going to be a little underrunning theme. But I thought that was a nice touch, just him saying to the half-faced man, look at yourself. And then he realises that he's actually looking at himself. I thought that was quite nice.
Oh, okay, yep.
And I'll tell you, actually, one of the other thing I thought was really good about this episode, and something that I think they've learned from the previous series as well, is that the incidental music was great. Because It's been very overbearing in previous series, and in this it was very nice and subtle and quite menacing. I thought the incidental music was brilliant in it and really added to it. It wasn't in your face, there was no sort of dun 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 dun, that we got every 2 seconds like before.
Oh,
it was
I Am the Doctor, Murray Gold.
Yeah, which is a great theme, but it got played to death, and the music in this was just very low key and subtle. I thought it was really good. But I didn't like the new theme, I have to be honest. I really don't like the new theme at all.
I was going to come on to that now.
Oh, sorry, didn't mean to jump ahead. But
no, you can jump ahead, mate. It's fine.
Okay.
the new theme. I didn't. Did I like it? Not
I've
really.
listened to it a couple of times. It's too screechy. It starts off all right, but it's just that whiny, violin-y sound. I really don't like it.
Yeah, coupled with the actual intro graphics.
I'm still
and
not
stuff.
sure about the graphics either. I
was
don't
gonna
mind
say,
them.
Yeah, I'm not too keen at the moment. It might.
They're a bit cheesy.
Yeah,
all the
they
clocks and it's something about it. I don't mind them, but I don't like them particularly either. Do you know what I mean? I don't think they're awful, but I'm not.
Yeah.
They're not grabbing me, and I certainly don't like the theme. I've given it a few listens because I kept thinking, maybe the cinema was a bit tinny, or because the volume was quite low in the cinema. It has to be said. I was a bit disappointed that, it wasn't blaring out at me like I thought it would be. But no, I've listened to it again when I got home. The theme, I rewatched the episode. It's just not grabbing me at all.
No, I agree. When I first saw it for the first time, I was a bit okay. That's not amazing. Maybe. After a few more viewings, it might grow on me. But no, I just not really. The best theme for me. I mean, there's the two themes that I like since it came back in 2005, and the first one is Series 4, Tenant, where it's a bit more. It's like it's more drums in there. It's a bit more.
The sort of
rocky, not rocky,
yeah.
But it's a very thundering along theme. It's very cool, and
Yeah.
I really, really liked the last series with Matt Smith, where it was more like the
it had a bass line to it.
Yeah.
Bop, 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 bop. That I like that, and that's the only version, as far as I'm aware, to not be released. Like it's never been, like they do the soundtracks.
Yeah,
and they still haven't put that theme out. And I agree with you. I really liked the last Matt Smith theme.
It was awesome.
Yeah, just love that bass. Bop, 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 but it's really low.
Yeah, this one was the opposite though. It had very little bass, but it was quite high pitchy and.
I just
squealing.
can't understand why they've chosen it. I don't know. A few people I've seen online do like it though. So, but the majority of comments I've seen haven't liked it.
Yeah.
But I can't. I mean, I just don't see how that got chosen. But I don't know. Personal preference, I guess. But no, not doing it for me.
No, me either.
I have to say.
Yeah. So So I'm just going to throw this in there, just because there's probably when we were talking earlier about the homeless guy Barney, and there was probably loads of people absolutely screaming at their computer or their iPlayer or whatever about the actor's name, and his name was Brian Miller.
Brian Miller. Okay, yeah. I knew when you said it. I know it because they mentioned it. But Brian Miller. That's
it.
Right. Yeah, very nice. Is he an actor? Are you on Wikipedia?
Yeah, he is an actor, yeah. But he hasn't really done a huge amount.
No. Can I just ask, what did you think of the Matt Smith phone call?
The Matt Smith phone call?
At the end. Were you surprised by it? Did you know about it?
I didn't know about it. No.
Did you think it was necessary? Did you like it?
I didn't think it was necessary.
Right, okay.
But I did like it. And the reason why, which is weird, because I thought it was quite, the kind of softy part of me just thought it was a nice touch to have.
Do you think they filmed it at the time? He didn't come back to film that, did he? They must have filmed it at the time, I assume.
I would have thought, yeah. It wouldn't have.
It looked like he was wearing the wig, didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, so like the big softy in me thought, that's quite a nice touch. But I didn't think it was necessary because he's already popped back up in a couple of things. Like in An Adventure in Space and Time, he pops up at the end of that. Do you remember at the very end?
Yes,
He kind of pops up in there.
When he looks across the console, yeah.
Yeah, and then we had, and the Day of the Doctor we closed off with Matt Smith. And then in the Christmas special we had, we had Amy coming back and stuff. So it seems like there's where it concerns Matt Smith, it's always about somebody making a little appearance at the end, whether it's him or someone else related to his era. And so I thought it was unnecessary. Maybe they could have done it with just a note or something. I don't know, but they didn't really need to do it as like a whole thing. I don't know.
No, it was it was a nice enough scene, but I agree. I found it just was like, I don't know, like you said, not really necessary. I was just thinking, well, what's going on? We've got the new Doctor. Why are we going back to this one to confirm it? But it was a nice scene, so I know what you mean. I'm a bit mixed about it as well. I wouldn't have cared if it wasn't in there, but I don't mind it being there, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. No,
I think it's a nice enough little scene. I think mainly because of the way Clara sells it. It wasn't really particularly the fact Matt was there. I just think the way she was talking to him and it reaffirmed in her head and stuff. I think she sort of sold the scene, really.
No, I agree. That's cool. Like I said, I liked it. I liked the scene. I'm just not sure whether it was absolutely needed or not. It was a nice touch, though, I guess.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's round this off, dude.
Okay.
First of all, what's your out of 10 for Capaldi?
Oh, for Capaldi, I'm tempted to give him a 10 out of 10, but do you know what? I don't think I should after one episode. So I'm gonna go 9 out of 10. But I thought he was brilliant. I just want to see how he develops. But I really thought he was good. So I'm going to go 9 out of 10. But really, in my head, I'm screaming 10 out of 10. I thought he was great.
Okay. I'm going to go 9 out of 10 for Capaldi as well.
You are? Okay.
Yep, I think he was awesome. And I think we can expect some great episodes
yes.
in this series. I think it's going to be really cool.
Can I just ask, do you think he pushed the guy at the end?
Yes.
You do?
Yep.
Because they gave the look to camera, didn't he? Now, I was slightly uncomfortable about that, and it seems I'm in the minority here. Everyone I spoke to doesn't care, but I was like, I wasn't sure whether I was comfortable with the Doctor giving an ultimatum of suicide or death. But I mean, I like it as a fan of thinking Dark Doctor, but I see it from sort of I don't know, as a role model for kids. I don't know, maybe I'm a bit too old fashioned, but I was slightly uncomfortable with it. But I kind of liked it because it was darker. But yes, I think he did as well, and I wonder if this is going to tie in with all this stuff people are going crazy about that have watched further episodes, because I think perhaps he is going to be a bit of a, not a murderer, but I think he is going to be a bit more, vicious. So, yeah, I did. But yeah, I just wondered if you thought he did it.
Okay. No, I think so. Yeah.
Yes.
I haven't thought about that too much, to be honest with you, but on the couple of viewings that I've seen, I think he did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So 9 out of 10 from us for the Doctor. What about the episode as a whole?
Well, I'm going to give it an 8. Oh, no, I don't know. I'm sort of between 7 and 8 out of 10. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 because I did enjoy it. I didn't think the storyline was fantastic, but I thought it was a good episode, entertaining, and I thought the performances from Peter and Jenna were fantastic. So I'm going to go 8 out of 10. I'm
going to go 8.
You going 8 as well?
I'm not copying. It sounds like I'm copying you, but
I didn't want to say anything.
But no, I do think it's an 8 because
yeah.
I didn't think the story was one of the best that we've seen, and I wasn't expecting it to be honest with you. I thought that it would be more of a set-up story, more of a character building thing. So I didn't think it was going to be one of the most amazing stories that we're going to see or have seen, but I did think it was really well directed. It looked very nice, and
yes,
and I really love the Doctor and Clara, and
yes.
So I think all those things combined make it a very, very watchable, very good episode.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's definitely one I will enjoy watching again, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of those episodes because there's a couple that I think, well, I'm not too bothered about, but that's one episode I will enjoy watching it on repeat viewing, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. And just lastly, what did you think of this? Sorry, what do you think of this thing about you can buy Deep Breath as a single episode? Are you gonna get that, or are you gonna wait for the series to come out?
I'll probably wait for the series. I don't really know why this comes back to the BBC seeing Doctor Who as a pound sign to me, because I don't really see the need for it.
No, that's what I was thinking.
If I'm honest,
yep.
I don't. Has he got any extras on it, or I don't know what the point of it is.
I assume there's a couple of bits on there, but you'd get all that on the series stuff anyway.
Yeah, no, I'm going to wait for the box set. The only thing I did notice, have you seen they've just released a limited edition of the complete series, which I think
Yes.
is a bit cheeky for anyone that's already ordered it, because they now have to cancel it and get if they want the limited, of course. I don't know why they can't. They must know they're going to do these things. Why they can't announce them at the same time, so that you've got the choice straight off. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's to get as many pre-orders in the bag, I guess.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Yep.
They know what they're doing, don't they?
They do. Those BBC scoundrels.
Those pesky BBC lot. Gary, there is just one other thing. I just looking at my notes. I just want to quickly ask you, what do you think of Missy, the woman at the end of the episode?
Of course, yeah.
Because that was the last thing I wrote down. I was like, who is Missy? What do you
Yes.
think about this?
Completely forgot about
Because
that.
a lot of people didn't like her. She was only in it for a few minutes, but a lot of the guys I've spoke to were like, "Oh, I can't stand her. Oh, what? You know, why did that scene have to go on the end? It ruined it." Blah, blah. I didn't mind the scene at all, and I didn't even mind her. But I've no idea what it's about, or who she is, or why she's calling the Doctor a boyfriend. Because of course everyone's now saying she's River because she's calling the Doctor a boyfriend. Is she the Rani? I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean,
Is she Mary Poppins?
yeah, she looked like a dark version of Mary Poppins. Yeah,
She did. Yeah, I'm intrigued by it.
Yeah, I liked it because of that reason. I liked it because it was interesting, a bit mysterious.
And all I can say is, isn't the what was it called? The Pleasant Land or Pleasance Land, or what was it called?
It was.
But isn't it wet? Because she called it heaven, didn't she? I was thinking,
Yeah.
blimey, heaven's had a downpour. Yeah, it looked a bit grim.
Well, it's Wales, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. I thought they might have put a few extra lights on there to make it look a bit more glamorous.
Oh, right.
It just looked like a wet, rainy day in a.
I think
in
that
some
was the
sort of
Promised
manor.
Land.
Promised Land, that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Bit
Yeah.
grim there.
So Cardiff,
Not worth the wait, I wouldn't have thought.
Cardiff is the Promised Land. Very wet and rainy. I'd probably give it a miss.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, I did think that was quite interesting and quite cool. I didn't mind that because it's only a couple of minutes. So
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
I'm intrigued to see where that's going.
cool. Thank you very, very much for joining me, man. It's been really cool chatting about Deep Breath. It was a great episode. I think we both agree that it was great. Capaldi was awesome.
It was. Yeah, definitely worth the wait.
And we cannot wait for more Who. Bring it on.
Yeah, I can't wait. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely can't wait for next weekend. That's one thing I will say. This episode really left me wanting more.
Yes.
I cannot wait for this weekend. Even though it's the Daleks again and I'm a bit like, yeah, Daleks again, I still can't wait just to see Capaldi.
No, it's going to be awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
So thanks, man, for joining me. Tell us where we can find you guys. So it's the website. So that's www. Is it The Geeks Handbag or just Geeks Handbag?
It's the Geeks Handbag. Yeah, I know. I wonder if I should have just called it Geeks Handbag. Would have been easier. But it's thegeekshandbag.com, and all
Cool.
my links to Facebook and YouTube and every other social media that you can stalk me on, they're all on there.
Cool, nice one. You can find all of my podcasts and everything over at the website, www.bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. Jump on iTunes and just do a search under podcasts and you'll find it there. You hit me up on Twitter at BigBlueBoxPcast, or jump over to Facebook, facebook.com/BigBlueBoxPodcast. My name's Gary. I will see you next time. Thanks again, Adam.
You're welcome. Thanks, Gary.
We'll see you next time. Allons-y!